Rabbi Martin Siegel was the rabbi of the Columbia Jewish Congregation for 25 years and is now director of RSA, a spiritually based education organization. He was a founder and first president of the National Alliance to End Homelessness. He also served as a White House advisor on hunger and homeless policy. Rabbi Siegel led therapy groups at Project Place, a homeless shelter and rehab center, and the Baltimore City Detention Center. He has written 5 books and numerous articles and has lectured widely. And the rabbi was awarded a silver medallion in honor of his work on homelessness by the National Alliance. So Rabbi Siegel, you have worked in the areas of hunger and homelessness in a number of arenas. And given the news of a down economy, increased levels of poverty, and a call for some for decreased government support, what do you see as the role of people of faith?
There are some themes that have been spoken, and I'm just reinforcing some, but I will try to answer your question when I get to it. There's a controversy in the Talmud. The Talmud is the great compendium of Jewish wisdom plus biblical world. And they ask, which commandment is more important? Love your neighbor as yourself, or believe that each human being is created in the image of God? The conclusion is that believing that each human being is created in the image of God is more important, because to love your neighbor as yourself, you have to first love yourself. And a lot of times people don't love themselves. Whereas if you believe that each human being is created in the image of God, even people who oppose you, who frighten you, who are difficult, you look at them and say, yes, they are part of God's image. And that, of course, has important implications for this so-called disadvantaged people, homeless people, and so on. Is that, as Jesus said, to the least of these, and as I try to point out when I'm talking about Ishmael and Hagar and so on, the lower down you go, the more powerful you become, because it's better for you get closer to the image of God that you were created to be, because a lot of the external stuff passes away. You know, you're not about how you look, how you dress, how people think of you. So in my work in the city jail and the homeless shelters, I really feel like I met God, because the people there were closer to God, seemed to me to be more like God than I am, because of what they experienced. And they were able to throw off all these societal trappings to become like God. So if the most important commandment is to see God in every person, people who have difficulty, particularly so-called homeless people, are our great teachers. And let's think of it that way. We're not just helping them, we're learning from them. And while I have many degrees, and I don't think you should boast about that, so I shouldn't even mention it, but I'm only saying that I learned much more working in the homeless shelter than I did from all my degrees. So if the most important commandment is to see each person as the image of God, each and every person, and we see homeless people or people in difficulty as closer to God, we have a situation to deal with. Because for a long time, in the last 20, 30 years, government has come to play a role on behalf of the society to take care of the least of these. Most of the programs that I dealt with were funded by the federal government. We're now seeing that those programs are being cut back and are going to be cut back even more. We're also learning that the people in need of homes or support are increasing. So we have a kind of nexus being created. The need is growing. The support from the old sources, the government sources, is decreasing is going to decrease, what's left? I suggest what's left is people who see each human being as created in the image of God and live their lives that way. Their role is not to become rich and famous or have the latest thing and this and that. The role of what it means to be human is to see the image of God in each person, particularly the ones who are not as rich and famous or powerful. And the only group, I wouldn't say the only group, but certainly a major group, which has the opportunity to teach that, are people who call themselves religious or spiritual. So I think there's a need for a revolution. A revolution means a change in consciousness. A new consciousness in which we say to be religious, to be spiritual, to be human, is to recognize the humanity in all people. And we express our own humanity only when we express our priorities, our commitment, our concern for those, as Jesus said, the least of these. If there's going to be a change, if the revolution from selfishness, from materiality, from self-focus is going to change, as it has to change, otherwise our society is going to implode. It's going to fall in upon itself, because it can't distribute these goods anymore. We're getting less and less goods to distribute. And people, if we define ourselves by what we have, or what we know, we're going to start fighting with each other. So, there is a resource. It's an endless resource. It's a powerful resource, and everybody has it. It's the Spirit of God. It's the soul in us. It's our awareness that we are created in God's image. It's our awareness that we are connected to something which is ultimately powerful, that created us and can never be exhausted. The energy of the Creator permeates existence. It allows us to exist, and it allows us to become what we were created to be, servants of each other. The people in this room represent access to the most important resource our society can possibly have and possibly access. The spiritual energy of our creation, which transcends individuals, transcends ego, transcends materiality, transcends power, transcends popularity, transcends games, transcends pleasure, transcends everything that we think is so important. And that resource, if applied appropriately, is what will save us. We need to look within ourselves. We need to look to each other. We need to look to that endless source that comes from the